Good morning. Welcome to Who Am I? So glad you could join me this morning. So glad that I am here this morning. So happy to be here. If you notice which slide or which background scene I've decided to use, I've used this one before several times. It is one of my favorites. And the reason is, and I just want to share this with you, what this scene reminds me of. I can see myself as 13 years old. I've got long, straight hair like that. Quite a bit thinner than I am now. And I remember poignantly gazing out to sea, out to the far reaches of the Indian Ocean, when I was but a girl in Kenya. Lived there for 2 years. I was 12 to almost 14. I just turned 12, came back when I almost turned 14. I was 2 months from being 2 years. Anyway, this scene reminds me of that. I can identify with this girl. It doesn't really matter what scene I choose to begin with. I like to choose different ones, and I like them to be soothing or beautiful or charming or attractive in some way. I don't go for the macabre or the grotesque. That's not actually me. I'm whimsical and beautiful. Well, I don't mean to be presumptuous. The question is, who am I? Who am I? And we ask this question faithfully, and we ask it every day. And we have intentions about our asking of this question. And we have a field of information that we try, an arena that we try to stick to in a way. Although I try not to be too strict with myself, I let myself roam in this general arena of conversation. We're asking the question in reference to source energy, and people say, what's source energy? Well, that's another thing we're going to talk about. What's source energy? I also believe that there are, of a very strong sort, there are laws to this universe. And we're going to talk about the laws of the universe as I understand them, as I have gathered the wisdom from the gurus of my time and the times before me. You can add it all up. You can put it in your heart. You can think it through your mind. You can sort it all out. You can realize that actually every single one of us is simply and profoundly, I don't mean simply like trying to, brush it away like nothing, but this is where everyone's coming from. Everyone is a point of view. And from that perspective, everyone's right. Because all anyone is saying is, hey, it looks like this from where I stand. And you can't argue with that, can you? From that perspective, everyone is right. And then there's another more profound thing going on, which is there is a larger universe that we are all occupying, other than the singular universe that each one of us individually occupy. By the way, that one, to every one of us, is different. But there's a larger universe that every one of our individual universes click into in this profound way. It's like this enormous expanding, by the way, expanding through our through our expanding understandings. And so that's why we try to expand our understanding. It feeds back into universal consciousness. Actually, everybody has access to it. And right now, there's this interesting thing called the internet. where I can just ramble about anything I want to, anything my heart desires, and I can put it out on the internet, and somebody out there is going to be interested in what I have to say. At least if I do a good job. I hope I have fans, although my fans, whether I have them or not, in a way, is of no concern to me. My only concern is what I am interested in thinking about and talking about and sharing with my fellow human beings, and how any individual one of them takes it is of no concern to me. Now, that's not entirely true because I am human, but I understand in principle why that would be, why I can't be concerned about that side of it. It loses its authenticity if I start playing to the audience, you know. I just come in this space and I faithfully think about and talk about, in as honestly as I can, this question: who am I? How does my biotechnology work? I'm going to talk about that, how I think it works. And then, you know, we're going to talk about, so let's talk about this. Let's go back to the concept of source energy, because I'm sure a lot of my audience is going to scratch their head and say, what do you mean by source energy? What the hell is that? Well, let's talk about it, because part of my question, who am I? Who am I? Why am I here? How did I get here? How does it work now that I am here? Where am I going? Where have I been? What's the general gist of my history? You know, what's happening on the ground? Where am I in the movie? You know? And then here's the kicker. And what is this medium that surrounds me? And how does it work? And how does I notice that it is always changing? And especially in the human world right now, it's changing quite fast. And it's possible that we have made it move this fast so that we can see how it's moving. Because if we let it go in geological time and we don't have any way to record moments and play them back, layer them with one another, and then note, then we can't really see how it's moving. But if we get everything going, if we get the changes moving real fast, right at a time of great upheaval on the planet itself. Now, human beings have gotten pretty good, because even though I'm talking about the upheavals and the challenges on planet Earth, I'm sitting in a pretty comfortable place as I talk about this. In times past, I might have been, like trembling in a cave, barely covered with whatever I could scrap together, trying not to get eaten by the local something that I was trying to, hunt myself in order to make it through the winter, or whatever kind of harshness we're talking about that maybe could have come before. I'm sitting in a pretty privileged, comfortable position to be discussing all of this. But the kicker there was, what is this medium that I am surrounded by, and how does it work? Because we're going to put all this together at the end of this discussion as we, go forth and sally forth and try to live our lives. We got to put all of this together, because all of how it works and all of what it is your thinking process has to be in alignment with this. So I'm not saying that there isn't an almighty force that is organizing us, because I actually am saying that. There is an almighty force. So all of you God people, all of you religious people, all of you just sure that there is magic afoot. Well, you're correct. You are correct. There is a kind of magic afoot going on. And it's really quite wonderful. And I would like us all to get to a place in the conversation where we are understanding how cool we are, how cool the environment that we have been born into is, how potential it is for anything we want it to be. We just have to get over ourselves first, get past our emotions, and see what we're looking at for what it really is. And then understand how to work your emotions. I'm not saying disregard your emotions. I'm not Mr. Spock saying that they're illogical. They're actually incredibly logical. Your emotions are way more logical than you have ever thought that they were. They're actually, you could probably measure this on mathematical scales. I'm sure you can measure the whole thing. I don't mean to be pedantic, and my position is not, I know everything and I'm going to teach you all. But what it is I kind of want everybody to get up to a certain speed, so that then we're talking about, okay, if that's what it is, and that's how it works, now how do we solve our problems? Because I do want to get back to our problems. And if you know me, and if you're a fan of the show, one of the biggest problems, actually the biggest practical problem that I see, which is one that I believe is causing an enormous cascade of all other problems, including, poverty, scarcity, war, ecological degradation, which would be contributing to my big one, sixth mass extinction. I only try to feel big things for the big things. Now, the funny thing is that in my own personal life, as a human being, I still have issues. And one of the arenas that my husband and I work on our issues is the arena of playing cribbage with one another. And we have this magical game that we have invented. We call it Crazy Cribbage. It's cribbage with some added rules to it. Maybe someday I'll make a recording that's just a description of Crazy Cribbage, and then I can get somebody to write those rules down so that we have them, preserved forevermore, because it's a fun game. And it's funny because even though I pride myself on being a person of perspective, I find that when we play cribbage, I still get bottled up in the, I get cranky about it. When you lose and lose and lose, and you're like, and you start to get pouty and whatever. Back in the old days, we used to get seriously angry about it, I would notice that he would get really cranky, and I would try to put a stop to that. And then there were times when I would get cranky and I'd throw cards at him, although it's funny. The reason I would have a recording where I talked all about this is because we have worked this out. It's almost an art form now, as an arena by which I can, in a very gentle place, because it's just cribbage, and it's my beloved. It's my beloved spouse that I enjoy spending time with him more than anybody else, because he's quiet, he's neutral, he's not particularly fixed. I mean, he is, but he isn't. He's he doesn't press a lot of something else on me, and it allows me to, find my way I don't know. Those are poor descriptions of what this man really really means to me. But the fact is we play 2 or 3 games of cribbage every day, and we play this crazy cribbage, and our emotions play out there, and our we have discussions about stuff. We're relating to one another. We're getting small. I'm going to leave this topic. I thought I was going to have a psychological discussion about how I have shifted the identity. So we don't just play for, we have this elaborate choosing. We don't just pick a card and the up or down, the higher or lower decides who starts, who has the first crib. We keep going until points are on the board. And there's a wild card, and there's all kinds of stuff that's very not cribbage-like. And then now, whichever one of us is playing for points or playing for crib, whoever has the highest card is the one who gets the points that are now on the board, on the laying out there, and they are now playing for points, and the other one is playing for crib, and they get the first crib. It's part of the change in the rules to make it crazy cribbage instead of regular cribbage. Anyway, it helps to diffuse the identity of who you think you're playing for, whether you're playing for crib or whether you're playing for yourself, and which one you're getting mad about. Right now, I'm in a moment where I'm sort of rooting for crib because we're trying to get it down to back to 0 so that we can zero out. It's a complicated thing. We're almost 1,600 games since we started doing this. We play a lot of cribbage. It's the cornerstone of our marriage. Cornerstone isn't the right word, but so who am I? Who am I, and how does this work? What is this source energy I speak of? What is this medium that I am swimming in? What are the laws of the universe? Why is it important that I know? Because before you turn to your physical spaces and your psychological problems, your children, your parents, your neighbors, your government, or whatever, before you can turn to them and understand what the heck is going on, what is up with them, you have to understand how the whole thing moves. It's like you have to understand the what it turns on. What is the mechanism of motion in your life, in our lives? What's getting us from where we are to where we want to be? How do you accomplish your desire? What is your desire? What does that, and I don't mean now translate that into a physical translation. My desire is a boat. No. Let's keep it in the clear zone first. What is your desire? What is our desire as human beings? The reason I think it's important to discover where our desire is because if you're a fan of the show, I talk about the inner being, I talk about your vibrational self, I talk about the laws of creation, steps 1, 2, 3. I ask, source answers, then you got to get into the receiving mode. You have to plug into the right frequency or you can't hear how source is answering you, how the universe is trying to grant you the well-being that you are asking for. You ask, source answers. It's step 1 is your work, step 2 not your work, step 3 your work again. Step 1 you ask, step 2 source answers, step 3 you got to get in the receiving mode. You have to expect the answer to be coming. You have to be looking for it in creative ways. If you expect it to come from if you have an expectation about how it's going to come and doubts about whether it will, then what is going to happen to you is you're going to fix on looking in one direction only I mean, your doubt is going to be like, yeah, but I don't really believe it's coming from this way either. And so that whole setup is going to keep you from seeing how it's really coming to you, because it is coming. The well-being is trying to rain down on us, people. And I think that the answer to all of our problems, and if you're a fan of the show, you know what the problems are: 6 mass extinction, war, ecological disaster, worldwide poverty and scarcity, and all that. That's the problem. That's the setup. That's what we want to fix. Also, throw into that authoritarian psychosis and late stage late stage capitalism, decaying world order, whatever. I don't want to get lost in the problems. Those are the problems. That's the setup. The solution is to understand who we are, how our equipment works, how the medium that we are swimming in works, what are the laws of the universe. And then now, okay, run film, run, what would you say? Actually, what you'd say is roll tape. Now try to figure out what everything means in your life, now that you got it straight. So what are the laws of the universe? There's different ways to look at all of this. I told you that one was Abraham's steps of creation. And you know what? She's right about that. That is what's happening. And how Source is answering is they're doing it vibrationally. Source is doing it vibrationally. And so here we circle back around. We've come to the place, why am I talking about source energy and what the hell is source energy? We're going to talk about it from more than one direction. There is mathematics to this. The mathematics of the source of all things. How matter is coming into being. How, from a quantum perspective, and why do I use a quantum perspective? Because from the quantum perspective, everything is Planck's. And from that perspective, there is only one thing that you are seeing when you look around and you have any kind of experience of an appearance of any kind of reality. Any apparition appears in front of you. Apparition appears in front of you. You have any sort of experience at all. What are you looking at? There is only one thing that's happening. And this one thing that's happening is in the matrix, in this. The Plancks are spinning. Everything is spin, everything is spin, everything is spin. And that's why one of the slides, one of my beloved slides that I always go to, how far am I in? 23 minutes? I could probably change slides. One of my slides is the Whirling Dervishes video down here at the bottom. I've changed my screen to show the links list in the description of this video. If you are taking the time to watch my videos, please take the time to go over and figure out how to open up this description of my video, because what it is it's a place where I have just taken advantage of a space that I can share with the world. It's a link of the links to all these things that I talk about that they're like visual aids. They're like, if we had hours and hours and hours and we were together, we could watch these things together and then we could talk about them afterwards. I can't put them in my video, or I am I get the credit for the watched video and I'm encroaching on your copyright because I'm using your content. So I can't take clips of what these from within these things and add it to my discussion. I could if we were in a seminar, but I can't do it and just put it out on YouTube for you to. But anyway, so let's go through this really quick, and then I'm done with this part of the program, Lost Century and How to Reclaim It. That is a documentary showing the history of how we have been lied to about what is possible, people. We could have incrementally come off of fossil fuels. And I do believe that fossil fuels is the single material cause of a specific kind of human suffering, not just human suffering, biological suffering upon planet Earth right at this moment in time. Because we should leave this filthy, dirty crap in the ground. And we have been led to believe that we have to burn it. And we don't have to burn it. Incrementally, we could have been coming off of this for 100 years. And every good idea that has come along, that somebody has tried to patent, that somebody has tried to profit on, that somebody has tried to bring to the marketplace in the normal way, and then profit on it like we're supposed to do, has found that product snatched from them, or perhaps bought from them but then deep-sixed. Or if they wouldn't go quietly, sometimes the inventor had to be deep-sixed along with the product. The fact is there's a million jillion good ideas we can create over Unity devices. It is not impossible to have a device that puts out more energy than it takes to run it. It is also possible to run an internal combustion engine on mostly water with just a little bit of fuel to keep the gears from seizing up, with just some minor modifications. How do you do that? I don't know, because the patent, the schematics, the diagrams, the papers, the all of the information about how he did it has been removed. But there is good evidence that many of these devices have been, even Tesla's tower was an idea to put out clean, free energy for everybody. And communications, that's another thing. These ideas could radiate clean, free communications, clean, free energy, and all you have to do is plug into the frequency. It's all about energy, frequency, and vibration. That's how you have to understand, if you really want to understand what's really going on. So let's take politics, for instance. We keep thinking that what we're looking at has to do with law, and has to do with facts, and has to do with reality. I'm air quoting reality, because I don't know what we're talking about when we say reality. Nobody does. Let's go back to my girl. And I'll go back the other direction when I'm ready to. What is reality? Girl, sea, moon. There we go. What we are actually witnessing is an energy event. And it's like an emotional energy event. But it's an energy event. And the energy that we're looking at is it's a swirling sea of a storm of chaos in of the negative mind. It's like the collective pain body getting out and dancing nine pins on our lives. It's all the demons coming together and howling at the moon. It's all the Shiva energy, coalescing, resonating, January 6th times, whatever. This event that's happening, what remains to be seen, and I think that there's lots and lots and lots of hope. There's lots of guardrails in place right now to help slow this juggernaut. as it flows forward, this angry storm of chaotic energy that is just angry. They're angry. The government is not serving them the way that they think that it ought to serve them. They are fearful of certain things going on in their world. They're afraid of their fellow human beings. They want law and order cracked down. They want the strong man who's going to fix it all. They're angry, and they want to be elected. And it really, we'll see whether the guardrails of the judicial system will slow anything down. There are other things, even if it does get elected, that doesn't mean that the whole nation is going to be swept into its thrall. There just might be kind of a biggish event of us watching a part of us in thrall to this, whatever it is, and it's going to be scary, and we're going to be talking about it. I think that all of this is because we don't know who we are, and we're not looking at it the way it actually unfolds. We're looking at it through superstitious eyes, or through ignoramus eyes, or fearful negative mind eyes that are fooling us. So I ramble. Who am I? Well, first of all, I am a vibrational being in a vibrational universe. That is the first thing. And I have a vibrational aspect to myself that is beyond the body that I can see. And this vibrational aspect of myself is playing with all the rest of the universe, and then relaying information back to me to help me live my life. That's part of the who am I. Another thing is I am a field phenomenon. I am not separate from the rest of the field. And so as goes the biological diversity of the planet around me, so wilts my own soul. So I really, really feel in the deepest core of my being, I feel that there is a need for us to steer our ship back in a more pleasing direction, in a more harmonious direction, in a more holistic direction. Now, I speak of us as a field and phenomenon, and it's true. We really are. We are more than ourselves. We are an allness with the field around us. However, as each one of us steers our individual starship through our individual experiences, we are divinely individuated from the wholeness. And from that position, that's where, so you are a divine individuation of the divine wholeness that you are a part of, right? So don't get lost in the state. Don't get lost in the bigger picture, because your smallness is really, really blessed and important too. And that's where I think we get mixed up. It's like, which one is primary, That I am my individual self, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, or the one, whatever that. And that's true. There is a point where the needs of the many do outweigh the needs of the one, but but never really. Because the way the system is designed to work, we're being divinely coordinated by a coordinating force, but it isn't a anthropomorphized like an old man sitting at a desk judging us, who could intervene in ways, like supernatural ways. He can do anything. God could just like take his finger and spin over here in a way that's like completely. It's not exactly like that. What it is that allness, that God consciousness. You're a part of it. I'm a part of it. And so it's something that I can click into. This universal consciousness, there's a reason why they call it universal consciousness. There's a reason why they call it that, because it's universal. Everyone has access to it. And when we don't know who we are, then what happens is you have these superstitious people running around not knowing how the laws of the universe work, not knowing that there are laws of the universe, and if they do think there's laws of the universe, then they think of them in superstitious religious ways that they use their faith to bridge logic, which you should never use faith to bridge logic. When you finally lay your faith down in a place, it needs to be supremely logical that you put it where you put it. It's the one place you need to put it. Where I put it, and I put it there for years and years and years and didn't even realize I was using faith. I was actually quite skeptical about faith because I could see what religious people were doing with it. And it seemed wrong to me, you know. They'd like say, we were just watching an episode of Young Sheldon yesterday where Mary is watching one of those, you know, television evangelists, and he says some things that make sense to her, and because of that she decides it's a good idea to send him $50, and the family doesn't have very much money, but she has faith because he says that, you know, it's going to come back tenfold to how much she puts out, and she has faith. And the very next day, she gets a tax return of $800 or something that she wasn't expecting. And so that equals to her, oh, yeah, you know, in a way, it kind of does work that way, but it doesn't really. Actually, I think about that. When you put your faith in the wrong place, I believe the universe is going to let you down. And then when it lets you down, then you're going to not have faith in anything, and then there's a problem there too. I remember my friend Mona. She like trusted everybody, and I thought to myself, well, that's not very discerning. I could feel, you know, where it was appropriate. I had tremendous kind of open faith in the world, but I didn't trust everybody. I sort of had instincts that worked really well for me. And she sort of had this open trust of, and then of course the world let her down, and then she whiplashed, and now you can't trust anybody. And I didn't agree with that one either, you know. But she had lived a harsher beginning than I did. I actually had a very soft beginning. Isn't that funny? I'm not sure that my siblings did, but I did. I lived in I maintain every single one of us has different parents, including my full siblings. They had completely different parents than the ones I had. I had a very soft beginning, and as such, I felt like my instincts were highly developed. And this friend that I had that I loved absolutely dearly, loved her so much, but she seemed to go out and step in it in places where my instincts would have naturally guided me away from those things without my conscious mind, ever having to have asked questions about it. This goes to a pet concept I have that I really need to write a book about called divine autonomy, which I believe, so divine autonomy is the art of operating your own individuated spin, your own operating system from where you are, and how that brings you a safety that you can achieve while your conscious mind stays in positive territory. That you do not have to take your conscious mind into fear, caution, thinking about threats. None of that. You don't actually have to do it if you set your system up correctly and then allow your inner being to guide you, because your inner being is a broader perspective. Think of it as like you are walking through a labyrinth, people. A maze or a labyrinth. A labyrinth is better because what is in the labyrinth as you walk through it is it's like a maze with all kinds of doors everywhere, and they connect to each other and they connect to all kinds of things. There's treasure rooms, there are theme parks in this labyrinth. There's treasure and there's demons all over the place. And you in your small self have a limited amount of information about how to move around down here. Truly, if you want to move around correctly, you need to engage your higher light, your higher mind, which is overlooking the whole situation, can see the whole thing, and can help guide you past the monsters to the treasure, to the, prize, the quest at the end, or, whatever. However you want to analogize this, that is actually not a true analogy, because it isn't set and fixed, and there aren't really fixed monsters. If you play the labyrinth correctly, you have magical ways of turning the demons into friends and, transforming the monsters into unicorns and all that kind of stuff. Cleaning up the landscape and turning it back into magical. Chaining the demons back up under the land of Xanth, and making the magic run again on the surface of the however you want to analogize this. So many different ways. It's all about analogies. It's not really, at least what I'm talking about. I'm talking about analogies right now, so I'm not wrong. Everybody's right. Everybody's right. That's another pet idea of mine. Everybody's right, and the reason everybody's right is because everybody is just illuminating a point on the grid. So it's like I said earlier, everyone is just saying, this is what it looks like from where I stand. How can I be wrong if that's what I'm saying? It looks like this from here. And how can I, from where I'm standing, call you wrong when you say that? It does not look like that from where you stand. How do you know? You're not standing where I'm standing. Everybody's right. Everybody's right, and everybody is important. I don't care how wrong and stupid they are. Everyone is right, and everyone is important. And the answer to all of this is we need to understand who we are, because the reason they're so wrong and stupid is because they're standing in a place where they don't know who they are, and they're banging around in an unrealistic way, which brings me to my second change of scene, which is this one. This one, I'm going to go through every one of my slides. If you are one of my fans, you will recognize every slide. The advice, how to listen to these videos of mine, is probably just mostly listen. It's not really anything to sit in front of with popcorn and watch, because I'm going to show you the same slides I always show, because I'm basically circling the same set of information. We're talking about who am I? Who am I in reference to source energy? Where have I come from? Where am I going? How did I get here? How am I going to be successful in my personal life, for one, and then our collective life, for two? What do I think is standing in our way? What do I believe is our specific problems? I've already said it twice today, so I don't need to run through that list again. What is it that we want? I haven't said that list. That one, what is our list of what we want from a place of clarity? Not from now, how you translate it into the specific, that's a different story. But just the general one in clarity, we want clean air, clean water. We want the freedom to live our lives the way we want to live them. We want abundance. We want the ability to build our own abundance and believe what we want to believe. We want comfort. We want thriving, living ecosystems. We want, I know what, one of the things that human beings seem to love to do. We love to do this. And even as my world shrinks down, and I allow it to do so, I'm getting small and finding the bigness in the smallness. There's a reason for that too, by the way, because of the scales of information, the way the universe is transferring its information across the scales. The multiverse, they're not parallel to each other. They're nested like Russian dolls. The one thing that I notice that even as I get small, what I still have the urge to do, and that is to move around amongst ourselves, to travel, to see people from other places, to see other landscapes other than what I'm used to taste different foods. We like to visit each other. We like to travel to each other's places and see each other's customs, to see how the different ways that human beings live and eat and shop and travel and wear each other's fashions and buy each other's products. We love to do that. That's one thing that human beings love to do. And we're going to continue to love to do it. But it's going to get dicier and dicier for the next few years. Now, it's going to open up and get great in a number of years. But right now, coming up close, there are a number of issues and strains on the system that are going to happen caused by fossil fuels. Caused by the scarcity that is created by fossil fuels. And we need to, say if for instance, jet travel was the one way that we hadn't figured out, how to use something besides fossil fuels, but all the other ways we were using, all these other things. Then we're using a fraction of the amount of fossil fuels that we're, But I actually don't think perhaps that jetting around in airports, controlled airports with jet-fueled jets is the right way ultimately for us to be traveling around. I don't know. I'm not sure. Maybe it is. I don't know. So who am I? Who am I and why am I talking this way? Well, one of the reasons I do this is because, I don't know, I'm driven to do it. I think that I've put up this slide, the 5 kleshas. This is from Buddhist philosophy, considered to be, and Buddhism is a well-respected, highly intellectual religion, by the way. They've got a lot of interesting notions about the forces that they see that are moving the universe. Now, they also recognize that the God that is in charge of things, the Almighty, and Almighty is the word I like to use because I think that it is vibrationally fairly correct. And it doesn't invoke other images. You say the word God and all of a sudden you've got since we were made in His image, then God must look just like us. But that's not, Buddhists do not believe in a God like that, but they do believe in forces. They also completely understand the pixels of the universe as being completely, in some way, in a magical way, other than with momentum and resonance, which connects everything. Momentum and resonance connects all things all the time. Other than that, all moments blinking in are pixelated and isolated and separate from all other pixels and all other. So it's like when matter winks in and then it winks out, it winks completely out, so that when it winks back in, it's completely fresh. And in that manner, it's disconnected from the moment that it was before. It's not, so the potential is, it does not have to be what we have on the ground, people. We could change up the situation around us very quickly. We could solve every single one of our problems, and we could solve it easily if, and it's a big if, it's a huge if actually, but there it is, if we knew who we were, if we understood how the grid worked, how reality was manifesting itself, line up our two minds, line up our physical minds with our broader perspective, so that our thinking is now in alignment with reality. Because I'm telling you, your source mind is in touch with reality. So if you are out of touch, if you are out of resonance with your source mind, if you are in a negative place, in a way you could say you are out of touch with reality in that moment. The world is not a negative place. But you can choose to go negative, especially with your equipment. You have the perfect equipment to go to the negative mind and stay there and create demons and create chaos and amp up the Shiva energy. You're in a perfect vehicle to do that. You're in a human being vehicle. And we're designed this way. Somebody did this to us. I also think that the perspective of seeing that somebody did this to us helps illuminate how we are in the situation that we're in and how history has played out the way it has played out. Because we are a created species. Somebody genetically modified us. Now, I am the only one that I know that has ever used an expression that crass and that bald to describe human beings. Greg Braden sort of dances around it. I'm going to go ahead and change my scene now since I've changed the subject slightly. Here we go to the neocortex, which is this overmind. It's your physical. Think of it at the neocortex as being analogous to your source mind in a way. It is to your physical mind what your source mind is to you. Your neocortex is to the mammalian brain in a way. You could say this. Your neocortex is to the mammalian brain as your source mind is to your neocortex. It is your broader perspective physical mind. So it's still thinking thoughts about physical reality, as is your source mind, by the way. It's all about physical reality. Even all of your whole spiritual everything is all about physical reality. I'm just talking about getting your physical and your spiritual lined up with one another so that one is not superstitious nonsense and the other one isn't cold, soulless, materialism. It goes back to my favorite quotes. The ones, the Baha'u'llah one and the Einstein one. Perfect place to put that in. I actually need to make a slide with these two quotes, and then I can just read it off my slide. Hold on a second. Okay, here's these two quotes. I'll do the Einstein's first. Science can only ascertain what is, but not what should be. Though religion may determine the goal, it nevertheless learns from science, in the broadest sense, what means will contribute to the goal's attainment. Science without religion is lame. Religion without science is blind. And then my favorite one is actually the Baha'u'llah one is more poetic, more beautiful. It says, science and religion are as the two wings of a bird, and the bird is mankind, which cannot fly on one wing alone. For the wing of science, if it lacks the insight of religion to balance it, leads to materialism. And the wing of religion, without the reasonableness of science to, unguided by the reasonableness of science, leads to superstition. And that's the truth of it. So we got a lot of people out there unguided by an understanding, a true understanding of how materiality is actually playing out. So I'm really not talking about, I'm talking about bringing these two things together, back together, science and religion, how to bring them back into the same fold, science and spirituality. Anyway, so we got the neocortex here. Where does this neocortex come from? Well, 76% of this comes from human chromosome number 2. Human chromosome number 2 is a fused chromosome. It just is. Now, how it got fused, that's another question. And I don't know the answer to that. It looks fishy to me. Maybe it doesn't look fishy to you. Maybe you're a geneticist and you look at this and you study this article and you go, you know what? I can see how that, because this has been known to happen in the natural world. This happens all the time. This kind of thing happens all the time. Things kind of get fused together and then, characteristics happen and we don't know how it happens. Some sort of punctuated evolution, or something. I don't know. I don't believe that's true. I think that we were created. I think that's how come so many traditions claim that we were. Now, I don't think we were created by the gods. I think that we were genetically modified by just some extraterrestrial that had to have had the technology to get here to planet Earth, and they had to have the technology, the genetic understanding, the understanding of genetics, so that they're able to do this kind of gene editing. But that's just my personal belief. It doesn't matter, in a way, if we weren't. The fact of the matter is still that this is our configuration. But it makes sense to me that somebody gave it to us. And then it would make sense to me that we would have a hard time understanding it because we were artificially bumped up and then nobody left us a user's manual. This is how it works. This is how you function. This is how to operate your systems. This is who you really are. This is who you really are, and the you that you really are is just operating this vehicle that you are driving in this moment. In the next moment, if you lose this vehicle, you could get into another vehicle. You could form yourself into another vehicle and drive again. As a matter of fact, it's almost assured that you will do that. Because that's what we're all doing. We're doing this for eternity. And it's not a bad thing. It's a good thing. We're choosing it. Did you know we're choosing this world of suffering? But we don't need to be suffering. We could see the whole thing differently. And we could address ourselves completely differently towards it. We could clean up the earth. We could solve our problems. We could get off of fossil fuels. We could get on with the magic of what we really want to do with one another, which is taste each other's food and, stay in each other's B&B Airbnbs and visit each other's marvelous natural resources, because we love to do that as human beings. We don't need to devolve into war and squabbling and quarreling over what we think is a scarce pie. We don't need to live this way. We can have a future that is so much brighter, so much even brighter than you might be living a bright life now. You ain't seen nothing yet. Our vortex is so full of everything we have asked for. It is indeed time to relax and let it all in. Allow ourselves to be who we really are with one another. We are a single morphogenetic field on this planet as human beings. And in a way, there is a place where everything that I know, you know, and everything that you know, I know. Now, we're blocking the frequencies, we're like scrambling, it's all quite chaotic, and so we're not seeing the potential of what's really blessedly possible, the peace on earth, goodwill toward men, and how that could really play out. How it's gonna play out is as soon as we get over this damn energy scarcity nonsense. This energy scarcity, this pretend energy scarcity we've got going on right now. And it's created a very, very interesting paradigm. And isn't that interesting what we've just gone through? Now, can we do something different, please? Because we don't have to live this way. We do not have to be so cutthroat and so... the spirits walking this land, walking this planet right now are quite shocking. If you really allow yourself to bear the full brunt of what is transpiring, it is quite shocking. Now, I don't actually want to do that, because as I have come to understand, what you are looking at is where you are going. So be careful about what you're looking at. It doesn't mean you can't look at big evil, because I do. I specialize in sort of a generalized, view at addressing myself in true understanding to what I am up against, in a big way, without getting lost in a swirly of the darkness, because you can start transfixing on the characteristics of the darkness, and then the next thing you know, you've lost your thread to the positive and you're lost. And so I don't want to do that. I want to solve our problems but not get lost in them. And the way to solve our problems, I believe, is to focus upon how cool we really are and how flexible this universe really is. And then understand that based on the laws of the universe, how you work this is learn how to focus more upon what you want instead of focusing upon what you've got that made you launch that rocket of desire. So this is how Abraham puts it. Every time that you're banging around in your physical world and life causes you to ask for more, as you ask for more, what you're doing is you're launching these vibrational rockets. That's how she puts it. You're launching these vibrational rockets, and your inner being goes with the rockets and is tending what you're asking for. Your source knows what you've asked for. You launch this rocket of desire. Now your job is to go with that and focus upon what you've asked for, as opposed to continuing to focus upon the field that caused you to launch that rocket of desire in the first place. Quit looking at what you've got and daydream more about what you want. Your imagination actually is a vibrational download that you are getting from your broader perspective. Now, how you're translating it is all dependent upon how you've lined your physical mind up with your broader perspective mind. How are you lined up? Are you in alignment? Are you in misalignment? If you're in misalignment, then you are experiencing negative emotion. The impulses that you're getting are now twisted. They're chaotic. They're out of order. They're out of sequence to what your inner being knows you want. Just follow the steps that your inner being wants you to follow. How do you know what they are? Well, that's a very good question. How do you know if you are in alignment with your higher mind? Well, your higher mind is broadcasting a frequency. You have to tune into that frequency or you can't hear it. And the frequency that you are tuned into is the one that you are broadcasting. So if you are still all balled up in the negative aspect of the steps of creation, then you're drowning out the frequency that's trying to come at you that is the answer. They are two different frequencies. The I am so unhappy with this situation I've got, and the happiness and the joy and the synchronicity, the synergy of the answer is a way different frequency from that. You got to go find the frequency of the answer, which was created immediately upon the launching of your rocket. You launched that rocket of desire. It was like a negative. Your inner being knows the implicate positive to your negative mind. And when you express a negative, your inner being knows the implicate positive and goes right there and stays right there in the positive. And if you want to find the answer, it's right there in the positive where your inner being is. And so even though your negative banging around did have a positive effect, you won't experience any of it unless you get off your negative and go find your positive. Go find that answer in the positive frequencies. Your source self is positive. It's something you will never get away from. So, let's see, where am I in the discussion? It's always the same discussion, people. So if you're a fan of the show, now someday I'm gonna have some fresh blood in the studio, and we will get to crack open how much potential there is to talk about this subject, even if we maintain just this field of information where all my slides are. So this slide that I've got up right now, this, if you're a fan of the show, I keep saying that. There's maybe one person listening regularly. I don't know. Two? I don't know who you are. People are liking it too. I have like one view, one like. I'm like, one thumbs up. I'm like, well, that's cool. That's cool. Somebody's listening. I don't know who you are. I don't know who you are. It's like a mystery to me. I thought it was my brother, but if it was my brother, then he's a great actor because he acted like he had lost contact with so I don't really think it's him. I don't know who it is. But anyway, if you're a fan of the show, this is Source Mind, Physical Mind, old stuff. Two spinning discs of attraction. They're independent of one another. Your source mind, just think of it this way. Your source aspect of you, that's you as the quantum field. That's you connected to all of reality. That's your vibrational self connected to all of the protons in all of the universe. Every one of which is a black hole. There's big black holes too. There's all size of black holes all the way up and all the way down. All of these centers of spin are black holes. They're integers. Think of them as black holes spelled WHOLES. But even though they are black holes, they still obey all of the laws of physics that govern black holes. Hawking radiation, Looks like that the little black hole proton, with its black hole, with its Hawking evaporation time, it's going to disintegrate in about approximately 10 to the 35 billion years. So it's a very stable little black hole, but black hole nonetheless. And within its Planck field, it has encoded all of the information of all of the other, all of the other Plancks, all of the other protons in all of the rest of the universe. And we are connected to all of these fields of information too. And as you click into your deeper and deeper self, you click into larger and larger fields of information. That's how this universe works. That's how it really and truly, in physicality, in spirituality, in consciousness, in in the Planck field, this is how the universe works. What is a Planck? Here's the Planck units. This is the formulas for them all. I have another one. Let's see, where is this one? The Planck length. Here's another one that tells you how you get to the Planck length, I suppose. And then here, I'm sure this Planck length relates to that. Here's your Planck units again. This is this is it boiled down. Now, what is a Planck? And why do I keep talking about it? It's because it's what the divine matrix is made of. These pixels. And every one of these pixels, all it is a little teeny weeny frequency. How do you get a Planck? Take a photon going at the speed of light, crossing its diameter. It's really small, because that photon was really small to begin with. And it was going really fast, and it did not have very far to go. And so that Planck is really, really, really small. It is so small that it fits trillions and jillions, and I don't even know what the word would be for how many Plancks fit into a proton. But it has to be a lot of them if they are reflecting all of the protons in all of the rest of the universe. There's a lot of them there. As a matter of fact, if you made every Planck the size of a grain of sand, then the proton full of Plancks would be from our sun to Alpha Centauri. That's the diameter. Make it a sphere, fill it with sand. We're talking lots and lots and lots of Plancks. These are the pixels that make up the universe. This is the ether that Michelson and Morley were looking for back in 1886, and they didn't find it because this is a fine-grained ether. Very fine-grained. And their equipment in 1886 and their vantage point, because they couldn't get off the surface of the planet. Now we can get off the surface of the planet and we can reflect distances from the moon or from satellites that are even farther away or whatever, and get out of the distorting effects of Earth's atmosphere in order to measure the drag of the ether. And now we have measured it. The field exists. But when they redid the experiment back in, it was in 1986, they didn't do it. They never reconnected it to the original idea of the ether. And so when they measured the frame dragging, they didn't go back and say, oh, let's regenerate this old idea of ether. This is the ether. This is the ether that we were trying to find 100 years ago, and now we found it. They never reconnected the ideas. And so a lot of people don't realize what they discovered when they discovered the drag of the frame dragging of this fluid plasma that the universe is made of. Anyway, I could come up with slides to illustrate some of these points. Some of this stuff they're new sentences, not stuff I usually say in my show. Here's the emergence of mass and nature of gravity paper. I believe this is really, really important. Our understanding of how these Planck oscillators, they are potentials for spin. They're like greasy little, I'm fixing to go into spin kind of things. And when they pull into spin, matter comes into being. It comes across the event horizon of the 0-point energy field of the all of this. And my inadequate words, I realize that it is inadequate words, and I am just a layperson, and I am nobody, by the way. Who am I? I am nobody. And if I can understand this to any kind of a general level, other people can too. You don't have to be a specialist. As a matter of fact, I would suggest more of us become generalists until our specialists are specializing correctly again. Because I don't think we're coming back together and putting it back into the same wholeness like we should be. We are specialists for sure. Each one of us goes off into our own little special place on the grid and light up your little part of the universe and then report back to the allness and feed back your information up to the whole, who then uses it all for the good of us all because there's only one of us here. All of that kind of stuff, we've lost touch with that spirit. And I think we need to get back to it. We need to get back to it. And in that service, I do my show. Before I'm done, I want to go to the emotional guidance scale. This tells you where you are, how well you are resonating or not resonating with who you really are. So there's who you really are, and then there is who you are being in any given specific particular moment. Your physical mind is kind of the one in charge of that. The one in charge of who you really are all the time without ever ceasing to be this. Who you really are is your source mind, connected to all of the rest of the field. A single field, physical phenomenon with the field around you. And how that really works. And if you could get your physical mind to be in alignment with who your source mind knows you physically really are, then we'd really have something. Then we could start building that smarter world. And I would like to see that smarter world based on who we really are and how we really operate. And I'll tell you this, our criminal justice system is never going to work. Ultimately, you just have to get tougher and tougher and meaner and more forceful trying to herd those cats. But in the end, it doesn't really work because it's coming from a lack of understanding of who we really are. If you understood who we really were, then you would understand that what we need is higher awareness. We need to soothe our agitation into better behavior. If we would soothe and love and assist and cooperate and that with one another, then we would all get to not only better behavior, but an explosion of imaginative, co-creative, cooperative behavior upon the planet that could easily solve all of our problems. We have a problem with tons of things that need to be done and billions of hands with nothing to do. We have so many things that need to be done that need tremendous inputs of energy to do it. We can resequester carbon easily Easily. Just put it right back in the ground. We can collect it out of the atmosphere, put it back in the ground. The reason we can't do it is it takes energy to do it. And the energy that we would use to do that now would be energy that we had to extract from fossil fuels to begin with. So it creates way more dirt than you're trying to, you try to stamp out a tiny carbon footprint with a great big carbon foot. It's not going to work. So getting off of fossil fuels, that's one of the big practical points. And I would like to just keep speaking this way. If I'm talking to myself, fine. I know what I'm doing. I'm getting better and better at being able to articulate this, how this connects, why it's important. I think it's causing all of our problems on planet Earth. I think 10 billion people can get along on planet Earth if we are not on fossil fuels. 15 billion people might get along on planet Earth if we are not on fossil fuels. And every single one of those human beings does not have to commodify their environment and put their environment up on the, let me try to say these words. They don't have to capitalize. They don't have to turn their truffula trees into thneeds and put them on the open market in order to tap into the supply stream, the supply chain of humanity. They don't have to do that anymore. If we could plug our stuff directly into source energy, each of us could go out into the environment all on our own and create our own little pockets of abundance, our own little kingdoms of joy and amazement. And then, as human beings, we could travel around and visit one another and see what one another has come up with. What an amazing, amazing future we would have. Right now, we're just trying to get past this war, this election, this next minute, this summer, this blazing hot freaking summer that's going to sizzle us to death because we're boiling a planet that's already undergoing a cyclical warming event. Anyway, yada, 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 here I am yammering the same old crap. What else do I want to say? I bring up this slide and I still need to, I went and played golf, I did other things. Maybe today, if I have free time, and I don't, today is not a day, maybe tomorrow. Because today I have an eyelash appointment, I have to go take a shower, I have to go bowling. Maybe tomorrow I will work on some more slides. I can flesh out some of these slides because I could do this slide a little bit different. The reason I put this one up is because this represents to me your brake and your accelerator, because your going specific is your accelerator. Pulling back to the negative is your decelerator. So if you're starting to go too fast, if shit's moving too fast and you're uncomfortable, you're overwhelmed, you don't like it, you're negative, you've turned negative, you're going negative, you're careening out of control, pull back to the general. If you're in a negative, under no circumstances are you to try to fix anything from that position. Your singular work is to try to find a better mood to work from. And from that better mood, then you can start to improve your situation. But from a poor mood, you don't improve your situation, you just make it worse. It looks like I'm getting close to an hour and a half, which is very exciting. I gotta get up and go make an egg sandwich for my husband who's gonna go play softball this morning. Yay! It's our little ways of moving into our retirement years where we're not as active in the raising of children or I used to be a big entertainer, Used to spend a lot of my time planning parties, inviting people over for parties and having fun. I don't do that anymore. I don't want to. I've changed. COVID changed me. And one of the reasons is I had this low-grade discomfort for most of my life as I recognized the the unsustainability of the directions that mankind was going. And the things we were killing off that I loved. I lived in Africa for a couple of years and really, really love animals. Love animals. And I have a hard time allowing my consciousness to even input the information of sixth mass extinction. I can't even hardly do that, and I have a very hard time going in and doing it anywhere specifically. It just breaks my heart. I just fall into pieces. So I have a harder and harder time watching nature shows because they always try to put it, first of all, they hook you by, isn't this beautiful? And then the next thing they're saying is, look, and how we're threatening it as human beings. So I didn't like that. And I also felt that there was nothing that would ever change our behavior. We were just doomed. We were just going to, just like lemmings, we were just going to walk straight off the cliff and die, crashing on the rocks below. Nothing was going to stop us. And then in 2020, I witnessed something remarkable. We all kind of agreed on something, and every one of us changed our behavior for a minute. We all stayed home. There was all kinds of things we agreed to do, and we just did it. And I watched us, and I went, holy cow, look at that. And then when we came back, we were different. Now you can order groceries online, and you can just pull up to the grocery store, and they can come out to the curbside and hand them to you. That was never a thing before. You can Zoom work. You can Zoom for work. You can work at home on your computer and have your meetings online and all kinds of stuff. That was never a thing. So when we all opened back up and we came back to life, the one thing that I promised myself that I would not do is I would not go back to being the same way that I was before we shut down. Whatever I do, it's going to be different. I'm not just going to say, okay, what did I used to do before? Let me line it all back up again and go to nationals of bowling. I'm still do this with my bowling, and the travel is still this way, and Bob goes back to work, and everything's exactly the same. I will not do that because COVID changed me. That whole experience changed me. The year of meditation and stepping back from the world and adding it together even more so has made me more determined for us to not go back to the destructive ways that we were before COVID. Well, of course, in large manner we have, because the destruction is coming from the use of fossil fuels. But in the service of getting us off that, I will continue to do this show to inject consciousness and awareness into this understanding so that at the end of the day, every day, we know more who we are. Who am I? Where did I come from? How does my technology work? How do I get what I want in this world? How do I get from where I am to where I want to be? And where do I want to be? Free. Loved. Full of fun and abundance and joy. All of that. Peace on earth. Goodwill towards men. All of those things. I wish it for me. I wish it for you. I wish it for us all. And we are all one. There's nothing you can do to change that. I didn't even go through any of the Bashar stuff today. Maybe I'll work on that tomorrow. I can do some more slides too. I can do the downloads, and I can do that. Maybe I'll do that tomorrow. So tomorrow you will not see anything new because I got to do the slides tomorrow after tomorrow morning's show. But in any case, until tomorrow, I bid you peace. I wish you well, and may the source be with you.